Welcome back to another episode of Hail Yes, a Michigan football and basketball podcast by the Detroit Free Press. I am Andrew Burkle, of course, joined by our Michigan beat writer, Tony Garcia, who spent the weekend in Chicago at Wrigley Field. And Tony, Michigan, yet again, somehow, some way, found a way to win versus Northwestern in an ugly game when they had 5 turnovers. It just doesn't matter. Found a way to win, right?
Yeah, I was wrong. Not in the final outcome, right? We both thought Michigan would win a tight game, but all week people had been asking me, or a few people at least, had been saying, like, what happens if Michigan plays like they did against Purdue again? I said, well, they lose that game. Michigan, in many ways, I mean, in some ways they played better, right? 496 yards of total offense. That was their most since that TCU game in the Fiesta Bowl at the end of the 22 season. And that was a 51-45 game. But 5 turnovers was the most since 2018 and in an Outback Bowl loss to South Carolina. And they had not won a game with 5 turnovers since Purdue in 2010. I think I was a junior in high school. No, maybe I guess it was the fall. So I was a senior in high school, but that was a long time ago. I mean, that was almost 15 years ago. And so in a lot of ways, they did play that sloppy game, but they continue to have that. They've been saying they're in playoff mode, right? So much like the NCAA tournament, survive and advance type situation. They just got to find a way to win. And I wrote about it post game. They are consistently inconsistent. Like, I just don't know how else to qualify this team. 7 turnovers in the last 5 quarters, wins by a combined 7 points over 2-8 Purdue and 5-5 Northwestern. None of that exactly breathes confidence into you. Then again, they're 1 win away against Maryland from going into that collision course that we've been talking about since USC with everything on the line against Ohio State. And so we'll get into the game and the good, the bad, the ugly, but they did the most important job, even if it was pretty gross to watch.
No doubt. And I don't know. I find myself just getting frustrated as a person who has to talk about this team on a podcast, who has to help, you come up with content ideas, who has to, work every single game for these guys, because it's like, I feel like I'm watching the same movie over and over and over and over again. It's like, what else is there even to say about this team anymore, right? Like, this game looked a lot like the Purdue game, that looked a lot like the Wisconsin first half, which looked a lot, and you could keep going back and back. And it's just like, they're finding ways to win. I still, like I'm sure many Michigan fans listening to this show, I don't know if this team is even that good. They put up a lot of yards this game. They couldn't put up yards in previous games. They turned the ball over a lot in this game. Other games, turnovers haven't been a problem at all. So, like, I don't even know really what the strengths and weaknesses are of this team at times. I don't think they're a great passing attack. Andrew Marsh had 189 yards, right? So it's like, I don't know what this team is. As somebody who wants and is, for lack of a better word, paid to know what this team is, I'm getting kind of frustrated, because it's just like, I don't know if it's me who I can't get a beat on this team, or if it's just that's how inconsistent this team is. And yet, with all that said, we're a Maryland victory from the Wolverines from having another massive big noon showdown on Fox. It feels just like all the other Michigan-Ohio State games during the Harbaugh years.
In half the ways, I agree with you. And I mean, probably more than half about that. But in some, I'll push back. Like, I think we are I think we do know what this team's strengths are. With that USC game, notwithstanding, the defense remains a strength. It doesn't look exactly the same as last year, where they can just punish you, only rush 4, and then drop 7 into coverage, and you're just not going to get anything. And that's what sort of how they've done things for a while. And then on offense, for a long time, the strengths have been the running game. And now they're down Justice Haynes. They might be down Jordan Marshall going into Maryland. But I mean, each of these guys have run for more than 850 yards and 10 touchdowns. Like, if they were both healthy, you could be looking at a pair of 1,000-yard backs with 10 or 12 touchdowns each, right? I mean, it's an incredible rushing attack. And so those are the strengths of this team. But in the sense that every game is the same, it's the same in the sense that in the fourth quarter, it's not as lopsided as you want. There's still a chance for a worse team to maybe pull one out, right? Like Purdue, it was 21-16, and Michigan drives the ball down the field to end the game. Obviously, we just saw what happened with Northwestern. 5 turnovers, 3 in the fourth quarter, all on consecutive possessions, helps let Northwestern take the lead. But then again, Michigan is able to respond. But in the way it was different this week, I mean, Michigan had passed for 231 yards combined against Michigan State and Purdue in 2 weeks. They were 21 of 39. In this one, Underwood was 21 of 32 for 280 yards, right? And a lot of that was because of the RPO game. I mean, they were moving the pocket for him. They were giving him easy reads. There were a few times, I think later in the game, I think Sharon sort of called it like a heat check moment, where there are times that the pile, on an RPO, you read the edge, right? And if he comes down, you keep it and you run around the end. If he's holding contain, you just hand it off and let your running back go. Or if they're all dropping back, then maybe you can throw that quick slant that we saw Andrew Marsh catch 7 or 8 of, right? But still, they got the passing game going in a way that we had not seen. I mean, I was starting to write through 2.5 quarters, right, about how this had been Bryce Underwood's best game to date. And it started that way. He completed his first 9 passes. He was 10 of 11. He had almost 200 yards passing at the half. And then the fourth quarter debacle happened, right? A couple of pretty bad interceptions. Then a missed handoff to Bryson Kuzdal. And they call him Kuz. I always want to say Kuzdal. It's Kuzdal. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a long way of saying, like, I agree with you in that a lot of these feel similar where they end, but this one got there in a slightly different way. If you take the best parts of every game, like earlier in the season when Michigan was protecting the ball all year, where they've been running the ball well, the first 3 quarters of this game where they were passing it well, you can see like this team could be good. But 10 games in, if you are not putting it all together, more often than not, you are what you are. And I think that's where this thing is at right now.
Yeah. And there's a lot of factors here, right? Like the schedule, as we've mentioned a bajillion times on this, like has given them room for error that they may not have had with their inconsistent game to game stuff. Where it's like, I look at, the kicking game. They missed another short one early and then they hit one late, right? It's like, I feel like I could just go through almost every part. Besides, you pointed out the run game has been pretty darn consistent, and that's hard to poke holes in. I think that's been certainly something that you can rely on. And football coaches talk about that for a reason, right? That can get you pretty far, especially in college football in an 18 game or 18 team league, right? Where it's like, if you can run the ball and you're not playing the top dogs every single week, you can piece together an 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 season as just the floor if you are able to consistently run the ball. So yeah, with all that said, I just think that like this team is so consistently inconsistent. And you said that every game, like this game, you're right. It didn't look exactly like the other game, but it looked different and got to the same exact point, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And that's why I become why I'm more frustrated. Like last year, talking about the team, like I knew exactly what the team was. Like they could run the ball unless teams stacked the box enough where you couldn't get any space and the quarterbacks were that bad, right? Like you knew exactly what that team was. Front four was dominant. This team, it's like, well, Bryce looked for at times like the best quarterback, one of the best in the conference, if not the best for a few throws at a time, right? And then he completely melts down in the fourth quarter, right? So it's just like, I just have a hard time knowing what this team is. And that's where the frustration comes, as just like somebody trying to be partial and give fair reviews week in and week out,
I agree in many ways. I think what this team is, it's a young team, right? Like that's not to make an excuse, but three starting redshirt freshmen on the offensive line. You have a redshirt freshman in the backfield. You got a true freshman quarterback. You've got a true freshman receiver. That's a lot of youth. Now, as they say at this point in the season, like you're not really a freshman anymore, especially Bright. Like you've started 10 games. You've been under center for upwards of 500 snaps. Like eventually you are more veteran than your year suggests, but it is still year one. And we've said it a bunch of times. He was playing Howell and Detroit Catholic Central at this time last year. That's not playing Northwestern, which is fighting for bowl eligibility and a physical, well-coached team at Wrigley Field. It's just different. And so, no, I hear you. I'm waiting on, and now with this, I know we're not talking hoops today, but when you get the hoops thing going on too, right? Like they're up 13 against Wake Forest and they blow it and they're down 7. They got to come back. Then you're trailing against TCU midway through the second half and you find a way to pull it out. I'm just waiting on one of these teams to just bury somebody one time. I just want to write a halfway decent story, have a lead thought out with 8 minutes left and send it to you before the buzzer. It's just, no. I know nobody else cares about that, but that's the personal gripe.
It's really football, basketball last year were kind of similar, right? In that way, whereas like, I guess, Michigan, we knew what their football team was more often, all of a sudden until they beat Ohio State. And that was shocking, right? But it still throws an element of unpredictability into that group, right? And then last year's basketball team looked like they could beat anybody in the world in the first half. And then the second half couldn't stop whipping the ball out of bounds and then could have lost to anybody, and had serious ups and downs. This basketball team looks phenomenal against Oakland, right? And then they kind of wishy-washy against Wake Forest and TCU. So it's just like the last 4 teams for Michigan football and basketball have kind of felt like the same cloth they were woven from,
Yeah, no, in different ways. Just random note, just because we're talking about it. So Dusty May is 30-10 in Ann Arbor. That's 40 games he's coached. Michigan is 15-4 in games decided by 4 points or fewer. That means 19 of 40 games have come down to 4 points or less. That is insane. That is such a high percentage. Like 10 would kind of be a lot. Just in given the fact that free throws, right? Like say it could be a 3-point game late. You miss, you foul with 2.5 seconds left. You bang a couple free throws and then it ends at 5. That's not even games that end at 5. 4 or fewer. It is just wild how tight these games are.
That's so absurd. I mean, last night I was watching Scott Van Pelt's Bad Beats, right? And he was showing because 2 of the teams in the NBA, now I'm forgetting who the teams were, but they were tied. The team was they were getting 10.5 points and the team was winning. The other team hits a shot to go to overtime and then they lose by 13 in overtime, right? So it's like that can happen easily, right? So the fact that it's so frequently ending in that 4-point range is just beyond absurd, right?
Again, for the story, I like which way is this game going, right? And you got to have 2 ready and you're scrambling. It's a constant scramble. I feel like Bryce Underwood under duress and in the pocket. I'm not even reading my receivers anymore. My head is down and I'm just pucking and running and trying to move the chains.
No doubt. All right. Any final thoughts on this game before we move on? Hit Maryland briefly and then take a break.
Yeah. I mean, just quickly. I mean, you wonder if that kick at the end could spark some confidence for Zavada. I mean, he had been struggling. Right, he missed 2 kicks earlier in the game. You're not going to hold a 60-yarder against him. It was a pretty good effort, frankly. It was just wide right. But the chip shot beforehand, and now you're going to hear about, the grass on a baseball field, and the sight lines and this and that. That's a 34-yard kick. Zavada was making that in his sleep last year. He's 11 of 17 this season. In 5 different games, he's missed a field goal, and I think he's only attempted them in 7. There might be 3 games where he hasn't attempted a field goal. Maybe it's 8, but I know there's been at least 2. And so, I mean, that much is concerning, right? Or the beginning part was concerning, but you wonder, I mean, getting carried off the field, getting that mojo back, I wonder if that can help. And then I know we touched on it briefly. Andrew Marsh, it was a freshman record, 12 receptions and 189 yards since at least 1979. The database at Michigan, like we were talking the SIDs, one is not easily able to sift through it in live time. And so that we were able to get all the way back to 1979. And it's hard to believe that anyone, I mean, just the nature of Michigan football before like Anthony Carter and whatnot came in the 80s. It's pretty safe to say that nobody was catching, no freshman was going for 190 through the air, but you just never know. So you got to add that caveat. An absolute dog. Where would this passing attack be without him, right? He didn't play the first months of the season, and he is the leading receiver on this team. He gets a shout out. And then just one quick random one. Jordan Young, the freshman defensive back, who made an absolute fantastic pass breakup on 3rd and 5 against Northwestern's best receiver downfield. Perfectly timed play. That really saved the game. And Michigan coming up with back-to-back, that defense coming up with back-to-back 3 and outs after an interception and then after a 4th and 1 missed handoff, exchange, fumble, turnover on downs, whatever you want to call it. Michigan's defense got the ball back in about a minute each time for the offense, and let Bryce Underwood throw that dime to Marsh, who made a fantastic toe drag swag catch on the sideline. So just a few news and notes here and there. There was a lot to not like, but Michigan did make some plays in winning time. They did.
Aesthetically too, man, what a beautiful game. I mean, just the way that field sat on there, the color, like the grass looked like it was, Comerica Park in June, right? It was just like, it was a beautiful, beautiful aesthetic. And so that was a fun element to the game too. Like certainly one that I think Michigan fans will remember for a while. Like it doesn't just blend in like that Purdue game. No one's going to remember that 5 years from now. Like this game is a game that will stick in the memories for a lot of different reasons, right?
Great point. I think forever. I don't take a lot of pictures at games like the Rose Bowl, sure. National championship, sure. first time I was in Columbus, sure. This was one of those, right? Like Wrigley Field, late season, afterwards. I was pretending to stand near home plate and like hit a home run, which obviously never would have happened, like just with my hands in the air. But so that was fun, and saw some people like playing catch on the field beforehand. Like Michigan's radio broadcast was doing. I was like, damn, I should have brought my glove. Like, I didn't even think of that. But no.
Hey, mind if I get in on that catch?
Yeah. Cool game. Kept the season alive.
Yep. Okay. Let's hit Maryland quickly because I want to get to another topic, a pressing one that we know a lot of people care about, Michigan's potential threat of independence. So we'll get to that on the other side. But let's quickly hit Maryland, who has lost 6 games in a row in the Big Ten after opening the season with the win over Wisconsin. Last week, lost 24-6 at Illinois. Anything to be concerned here outside of just trap game possibilities in Michigan's sometimes too close for comfort games against Maryland?
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd like to think that this is a game that Michigan easily handles, but just recent evidence would suggest that maybe that's not how it's going to go down. And I was asking Sharon Moore on Monday about the idea of a trap game, and I didn't even get to finish my question, and he's like cutting me off. He's like, nope. He's like, we're not talking about next week. There is no such thing as a trap game. He gave me a Nick Saban rat poison. He's like that's what Coach Saban is talking about with that poison. And so I don't think he meant me, but just like that mentality. If you are overlooking it, like that's how your season crumbles apart. And so I mean, a lot of them are saying the right things. Like there was another reporter who asked Trey Williams, who was from the DMV area. He went to St. John's in DC, about like, how do you stay focused, and like how, like, are you allowed to at all peek ahead to Ohio State? And Trey goes to this guy. He goes, "Do you want us to lose this game?" Yeah, like he said, and he said it pretty genuinely. Like, not like, "Do you actually want us to lose this game?" But like, that's what would happen, or that's what could happen if we don't have full attention on it. So, I mean, Michigan seems to be like they know. I mean, I'm sure there are coaches and staffers who are assigned Ohio State right now, right? Like some people are allowed to look ahead, but the players can't be thinking about that. Soon enough, Saturday at 7:05 p.m. after this game ends, I wonder if we get 5 questions and answers about this Maryland game, or if it just immediately turns to Ohio State, if Michigan is able to win, right? If they lose, then the post game looks different. But they're talking about how this is Maryland hasn't won a game since September, right? Like, you'd think it's like, this is no problem. But if you look a little bit closer into some of these games, often they're maybe like closer than the experts think, as the infamous Lee Corso would say. So their first 3 losses, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, all by 4 points or fewer. 1 of them was by a field goal, right? So that is tight. Then they get blown out by Indiana. I think everybody's been blown out by Indiana this year. At Rutgers, a loss to Rutgers. That's really where I was like, oh, this is a bad team, right? Like, you're losing to Rutgers. I mean, and that is probably true, but you're on the road. It's a 1-possession game late. And so it's not like the 15 points final score is a little more lopsided than it seems. And it's kind of the same way with this Illinois game last week, right? Like, you look at it, okay, it's 24-6. Obviously, Maryland's offense isn't getting anything going. It's a 3-possession game. This game was 21-6, and Maryland had the ball at the Illinois 3-yard line with like 8 minutes to play. Right. So if they're able to punch that one in, they could make it. I mean, if they want to go for 2 or not, you don't know. But that could have easily been a 1-possession game. And then if nothing else, the final score looks different. And then the last point I would make is they just announced that Mike Locksley is coming back for another year. That can really actually, in a time where players are like going to be looking elsewhere, their agents are already putting out feelers, it's easy to splinter. That could serve as some sort of galvanizing force. Not to mention, this team is 4-6. They are still technically bowl eligible, and they have the corpse of Michigan State in their season finale. And so it could, like, you could see from their mentality, it comes down to this one. Like, if we can beat Michigan, we can go into Detroit, because they're playing at Ford Field, and beat Michigan State in the finale. So there's plenty to play for here. And they got a talented young quarterback. I know that was kind of a long spiel, but Michigan should be able to handle it. But we've been saying that for a couple weeks in a row, and it's come down to the final possession.
Yeah, for sure. You took the words out of my mouth about locks, especially because they recruit DMV heavy, right? Like, these kids either initially wanted to stay home or currently still want to stay home. Like, that's why they're choosing Maryland, right? Stick in the DMV area. So it could be more of a relief off some of these kids' shoulders. Like, okay, phew, now I don't have to like start fresh, worry about the coaching search this winter. Like, I think it actually, those firings can go one of 2 ways, or And those we're bringing you backs can go one of two ways. And I think this one is one that plays into them playing tough the last few weeks. So we'll see. You never know. And Michigan has to, if they keep playing like they have for the majority of the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to catch up with them eventually, right? Somebody's going to be able to capitalize on those turnovers, or somebody's going to be able to move the ball when they're not moving the ball. So like eventually it could catch up to them, but realistically they only have to survive one more week until they get to the Buckeyes.
That's right. And then just another note about Malik Washington, the true freshman quarterback, he's from Maryland, as you say, as so many of their players are. I mean, the DMV, for my money, is the best football hotbed in America. Like, you could find places in Southern California, in Texas, in Georgia, in Florida. The DMV produces dogs. And I mean, it's why Michigan recruits that area so heavily. And so this is it's a talented, like, sort of hotbed of football players. And Malik Washington is one of them. There are few quarterbacks who are the size of Bryce Underwood. Malik Washington is 6'5", 230. This dude, I mean, he is built just like Bryce Underwood. I'm not saying he has the upside. I'm not saying he came in as highly regarded or anything like that. Obviously, he did not. Bryce Underwood was the number one quarterback in the nation. But just pound for pound, I mean, and a lot of it has been out of necessity, Malik Washington has been every bit as good as Underwood. I mean, 2,300 passing yards, that's more. 13 touchdowns, that's more. 7 picks. And here's a key. How many times has Malik Washington been sacked this year in 10 games?
6 or 7.
Nice.
Wow. I guess low because I didn't know.
3.
Wow.
He gets the ball out quick. He gets the ball out quickly. We've seen other teams like New Mexico, like Oklahoma, like USC, all screen Michigan and get the ball out quickly. That is one way to neutralize this Michigan defense and force you to tackle in space, right? Which Michigan has really improved on over the last month. I mean, there's no question about that since that debacle against the Trojans. But don't expect, there's no guarantee that Michigan has like 2, 3 sacks. I mean, if anything, the stats would point to the fact that they're not going to have multiple sacks because he's only been sacked three times on the whole year. So, and he hasn't been sacked more than once in a game. He was sacked once by Wisconsin, once by Nebraska, and once this past week at Illinois. That's it.
Underwood's been sacked 14 times. I just double checked. So yeah, that just shows you how much that's an impressive stat. Sometimes context can be important.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No,
I had to look it up too, just to make sure, because I wasn't sure. I mean, he got sacked.
3 of them were this week.
Right. Yeah. And then 2 against Purdue, 1 against Michigan State. He's been sacked every week except for 1 against Central Michigan. Right. So 3 over the course of however many all of his starts is impressive. Right. So, okay, let's wrap it up. We'll talk Michigan independence on the other side of the break, make our predictions for the game, and of course, our picks. We'll talk to you guys in just a second. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us. And Tony, we like to joke that it's just always something with this Michigan football program to drive a headline. It's becoming almost Cowboys-esque, right? And now Jordan Acker becomes the latest storyline here, the Board of Regents member who, I don't know if threatens would be the right word, but insinuates that independence and leaving the Big Ten could be a possibility if this private equity deal that's been floated out there does go through. What do you make of this situation? Is this a real possibility? Is Michigan the next Notre Dame, or is this just a lot of pushing back, trying to debate, and just like positioning, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ways to go. Like, I think we would be jumping the gun if we said like Michigan is on the verge of leaving the Big Ten, right? But the fact that he went on a radio show and said, and he is a member, he's a member of the Board of Regents, is one of the more vocal ones, that he feels, and he's not the only one, right? Like Mark Bernstein, who is the board chair, when at Michigan's board meeting last month said, I mean, they called this potential deal of an infusion of $2.4 million in private equity from UC Investments, this hedge fund. They called it short-sighted. They called it reckless. And so I think it's clear that Michigan, and it seems to is opposed to this notion of having outside funding in the Big Ten, just because of the autonomy that they would lose, right? And then you can there's all the other reading in between the lines, like why would teams want this? Why wouldn't teams want this? Right. So Michigan and USC are the 2 vocal oppositions right now. USC's stance, and the reason they would not want this, is because it's sort of like a tiered system, I think, based on the revenue you generate for the league, and also, I believe, how long you've been in the league, right? Like, you can't just come in and get the same piece of the pie as Michigan and Ohio State, who have been the faces of this conference for decades and decades and decades. And so USC doesn't like that. I mean, USC is trying to compete with Michigan and Ohio State and Oregon and Penn State and these teams at the top of the league. And so they don't like that aspect of it. Michigan, I mean, there's a number of theories about what they don't like. And just quickly, so we're recording this on Tuesday, right before noon, November 18th. This will be in your feeds on Wednesday. On Thursday, the 20th, Michigan has another board meeting. This one's in Ann Arbor. I do plan to attend it. And so possibly there will be more answers later in the week. But this is just as of right now, sort of what we know. And Andrew, we were throwing out some theories, right, about like why maybe Michigan wouldn't want to do something like this in terms of having all, like, you have the upper hand just financially and brand wise and in a lot of ways in the Big Ten. If there's this huge influx of cash to all the current, I guess, have-nots, you could call it, it's just all the more opportunity for someone to sort of take the leap that Indiana has made in recent years.
I was going to say to Signetti themselves up to the top of the Big Ten, but at the same time,
yeah.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Don't all the teams split the TV money equally right now? Like, there is no, because you're Michigan, you get more money now, right? So if anything, you would expect that to be favorable for Michigan and Ohio State and USC more than Rutgers and so on and so on. But you can see why USC would be against that. I mean, that's a pretty obvious reason why. But what I can't figure out, and the most fascinating element to me in this, is why Michigan has not just said, hey, we don't really love this, but been like pounding the table, like, absolutely not. But yet Ohio State, who would theoretically be in the exact same situation as Michigan, it may be slightly different, but very similar, and if not further ahead than Michigan, who's, had more sustained dominance for a longer period of time outside of the 1 week or 1 day a year where Michigan's got them 4 times in a row. Like, how could Ohio State be so okay with this, but Michigan is so against it? That's the most fascinating element to me, right?
No, and it's a good question. And let's give, and Michigan probably just let's give Michigan the benefit of the doubt here and sort of paint this in, I guess you could call it a Pollyannish way, right? So Michigan could also just be taking, and it's possible, a moral stand saying we don't want private equity further, I think we're allowed to say this word on this podcast, bastardizing the product that is college football and what the Big Ten Conference stands for, right? The Big Ten has always tried to have some moral high ground over leagues like the SEC, right? And this is just another step down the path towards either an NFL model or losing college football as we know it. I think that ship has sailed. But just you lose autonomy of your conference and you no longer have full say over what you can do. Like, you are now at the behest of other people, and there is input coming from outside the league, and that's not something you want. And so, and to be clear, this whole leaving the Big Ten Conference, so Michigan is signed to the Big Ten through the 2036 season. That's when the grant of rights deal expires. One reason that a lot of these other teams want this is because this would extend everybody's grants of rights through 2046. So if you're talking about, say, a team Michigan just played like a Northwestern, right? Where it's like, does this team really still fit in the current construction of the Big Ten, just in terms of, like, I mean, how much money is going in and those sorts of things, or anyone who's sort of on the outs?
Northwestern might be a bad example just because they built a brand new stadium, right? They've built that insane.
Yeah, okay. You're right. I guess historically, what you think of Northwestern.
Maryland or Rutgers, somebody who already was on the short end of the stick coming into the conference, or, Purdue, but they have the basketball at least, right? But I mean, yeah, there's examples we could go down, but I think Northwestern I just wanted to point out because they're building that whole new stadium and stuff. I think they're investing,
No, let's put some respect on Ryan Field's name. That's true.
For sure. No, it's just an interesting, once you hear independence, I mean, that's what got my attention, right? I mean, it's something. It's a word that means a lot in college football that might not in other sports, right? Like, when you say independence, you think of Notre Dame immediately, right? Who has held on to this entire time. And I don't know, there was time that people thought that maybe they were not getting the best shake. I mean, how would the college football landscape look if Michigan and Notre Dame were the only two independent teams like that? It would just be a very, 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 very different dynamic for Michigan. How they're viewed, how their schedule looks. Would they play Michigan State every year? Would they play Ohio State every year? I mean, there's just so many layers to this that once that gets thrown out, it's like kind of like a trump card, right? It's kind of like for euchre players out there, right? Or I don't even know if it's a trump card. It's certainly something that you put out there to get people's attention. And I thought it came earlier than I would expect, as far as, because this thing seemed like it was kind of dying down because Michigan and USC had kind of effectively killed it, right? I mean, so I don't know. It kind of got my attention. Is like,
and let's be clear. So also yesterday, this deal has been paused, right? Like Jordan Acker went on this radio show in the afternoon saying it looks like all signs are pointing to this thing going through without our approval. And then a few hours later, the UC Investments paused it. And here's what they said in the statement. They said, "We remain convinced that the unity of the 18 Big Ten university members is the key to the success of the deal. We also recognize that some member institutions need more time to assess the benefits of their participation. UC Investments likewise requires some additional time to complete our due diligence as recent developments unfold, and we continue to engage with the conference."
Basically, if USC aren't in there, they don't want to do it.
That's what was believed to be the case for a long time. Then there were a long time. I mean, this has all been like sort of broken over the last few months. Over the first 75% of the time since we've known this, the belief was that it had to have the backing of all 18 teams. Then for a few weeks now, it seemed like, hey, like we're moving through this thing even without Michigan and USC. But Michigan is trying to flex its way. I mean, Michigan is, I think you could say one of, but I would argue the premier college football brand in the country, right? Like maybe there's Notre Dame, maybe Texas, Bama, and Georgia in some ways, but really the Block M,
is
Ohio State as well. But the Block M means a lot to college football and certainly to the Big Ten. And so this is not, this is not Illinois threatening to leave the Big Ten. It's like, all right, well, go to the Big 12.
Adios.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Like see you later. Don't let the door hit you in the rear on the way out. No, it's fascinating.
And to be fair, all around, if the strength of this deal, the only reason you would ever do it is if everybody was on the same page. Otherwise, it becomes a complete house of cards. If Michigan backs out, why is Ohio State staying in the deal? Like, and on and on. And if they're out, then why is USC staying in? Then all of a sudden, it's like, what good do the 12 of the 18 teams have in negotiating power? Like, the 18 together is the deal. That's what matters. All right, let's get to our picks quickly here. We're going to have to buzz through these because we have a hard out. And we have a little more meat on that bone than I think we thought on the private equity element. So just to refresh, as Tony likes to remind me to do, we are tied exactly at 23-25 and 23-25 for the season. 2 games under 500. It's been a rough season. I've been trying to climb out of a hole basically since week 1, I feel like, and you've been started red hot and coming down since. So we got 4 games here, the only 4 ranked matchups of the weekend. It's kind of honestly not a loaded slate of games. A lot of those SEC matchups are the 4th non-conference game, aka basically an extra bye week before their rivalry games. So not the most loaded slate, but still some incredibly important games. Starting with USC at Oregon. Also stakes in play here for Michigan and their potential journey to a Big Ten championship game. Tony, who do you like in this one? Oregon, a 9.5 point favorite over the Trojans.
Yeah, so for context, what it means for Michigan, the winner of this game, Michigan then needs to lose next week. So if Oregon wins, Michigan needs Oregon to lose to Washington. If USC wins, Michigan needs USC to lose to UCLA. If that happens, if the winner of this game loses the following week and Michigan beats Ohio State, Michigan is going to the Big Ten championship. But that is the one and only, and Michigan has to beat Maryland as well. But that is the one and only path, that the winner of this game loses the final week. If that doesn't happen, Michigan is eliminated from the Big Ten title race no matter what. Okay. But as far as this game, I am going to take USC. I am really surprised that they are catching 9.5. I would have thought this was like 5.5. Like that's a lot more than I thought, which kind of concerns me in one way. But also, I mean, USC's offense is just so good. Like, why, like, even if this thing starts getting away from them, why can't they cover late in the 4th? Or why can't they score first and then need to be outscored by 17 the rest of the way? I could see either path. Like, you can open it up first or you can come back late. And also, I just don't know who Oregon has like really been so impressive against that you feel like they deserve to be favored by 10 over another functional team. I mean, they only beat Wisconsin 21-7. They went into Iowa and won by 2. That was a dogfight. Like the bad teams, they sort of beat up on them, right? So Minnesota, they hammered. Rutgers, they hammered. But USC is not that. And the last time a ranked team came into Eugene, to Austin Stadium, Indiana just beat them. This is not infallible Oregon. And so, well, I think they win the game. To win by 10 feels like a lot. So give me the Trojans.
That's a strong case. The points convinced me to go. It was one of those, you mentioned it, kind of a wonky looking line, right? And I think that Oregon, this is their opportunity for a coming out party, right? They kind of missed their opportunity against Indiana. Well, they definitely missed their opportunity against Indiana. They kind of missed it against Iowa to really make a statement at Kinnick, and they just didn't do it. This is their chance once and for all, really lock up their position in the college football playoff. Obviously, they'll have to beat Washington the week after that, but if they're beating USC, seems a lot more plausible. So I think that this is a game where Oregon needs to win, should win, and has incentive to run up the score if it's close, for college football playoff seeding reasons, for last pushes, for if Michigan somehow beats Ohio State and there's a 10-2 versus, there's a lot of extra reasons for Oregon to run the score up. So I'm going to go with the Ducks in this one.
And Michigan fans, you should be rooting for Oregon in this game. Because a loss eliminates USC from college football playoff contention.
Actually, though, pause. Should you? I mean, quickly, I know we have to run through these, but does Michigan even need to go to the Big Ten championship game? I mean,
no, not for the Big Ten championship game. That doesn't matter. I'm saying, but if USC wins and they win the next game, forget the Big Ten title game. That would be 10 wins. That would include wins over Iowa and over Oregon
and Michigan
and head-to-head over you. That is really tough to leap, even if you go 10-2 and beat Ohio State, right? If both of you are 10-2 and USC, I mean, they didn't just beat you. They hammered you head to head, and they have 2 good wins, and you really have 1 good win against Ohio State. USC beating Oregon at Oregon or Michigan beating Ohio State at home, those are semi-comparable. Like maybe Ohio State is the better win, but that's home versus road, right? And so just don't even let it happen. Just Oregon win, eliminate USC.
Yeah, that'd be a huge bonus. Okay, yeah, good point. Big Ten championship game elements also help for Oregon winning, but I mean, if Michigan can make the playoff and not play the Big Ten championship game, that might be ideal. An extra week off of not having to test your body.
And there's the chance you could play yourself out of it. Like a Big Ten title would mean a lot to Indiana, to Michigan, who's won 3 Big Ten titles in the last 4 years. I mean, obviously it's great, but the CFP is really where you're concerned. And if you're on the fringe and then Indiana thumps you by 21, there is a scenario where playing an extra game, it's just your SOL and that plays you out.
What if you get beat, like you have the emotional peak against Ohio State, you lose like 56-10 against Indiana, who's been shown to be able to run it up against people.
I don't know that. I don't think that would happen. But like 34-17, 56-10.
All right. Sorry. I just threw out a random score because I saw it was in the 50s all the time, right? I'm just saying random, Indiana has a knack for blowing people out, right? Like really blowing the doors off teams. So I don't know. I just threw out a huge number I couldn't think because I didn't know if 34-10 or whatever. I don't think that's enough to knock Michigan out. You know what I mean? That's why I threw out a huge, ginormous number.
It also depends what happens in the SEC with Oklahoma, with Vandy, what happens in the ACC,
Alabama.
Big 12. Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of 2 weeks is a long time at the end of the year with so many big games late. We'll see. All right, we'll rip through these.
Michigan is a 13.5 point favorite at Maryland, who, as we mentioned, has dropped 6 in a row. We both have Maryland picking the upset, or points wise covering. I don't think either of us having them pull off the upset, right? But what do you have for this one here?
Exactly what you said. Michigan hasn't won a game by more than 2 touchdowns since, I guess Washington, it was a month ago. I do expect things to look a little more cohesive, and then we'll start being like, maybe they are playing a little better going into Ohio State, right? Like if they don't turn the ball over 7 times in the last 2 weeks, their offense is moving it better. Their defense has steadily improved since USC. There are reasons to think that this team is playing better, but turnovers are the sign of a poorly coached team and an undisciplined team. And you don't like to see that cropping up late. So I don't have reason to believe that Michigan is just going to not turn it over at all. I do think that Wink Martindale can sort of change the picture on Malik Washington defensively, and they might have him in a blender a little bit. And so I could see Michigan winning this game 24-13.
That's funny. When you said 24, I was like, 13 was the number that came to my head. I like that a lot. I think it's, kind of a grimy game. The only thing that would scare you is that Northwestern game last year, right, where Michigan just gets it all right. Ultimate focus going into the Ohio State game. And look how that helped them the next week. So that's the only thing in the back of my head scaring me, because otherwise I'd be like, show me before I'm going to pick Michigan with 13.5 points again when they can't blow out anybody right now, right? That's the only thing that would maybe scare you a little bit is the recent history. So we're both on the same page on that one. Nice little ACC battle between Pat Narduzzi, who really stuck his feet in it this last week. I mean, what was he doing, right? Against Georgia Tech, the Hornets. They're the Hornets, right? Georgia Tech?
Yellow Jackets.
God. No, it is because they have the exact same logo as Saline High School.
Saline.
Yes. And Saline is the Hornets, right? So, okay. Georgia Tech, Yellow Jackets, 2.5 point favorites over Pitt. Who you got?
So what you were alluding to, Pat Narduzzi, essentially Pitt's head coach, essentially said, I don't care if we lose to Notre Dame by 100. All that matters are these final 2 weeks when they're actual league games, just for potential berths to the CFP, to the conference title game, da-da-da. Had I heard him say something that's stupid, I never would have backed Pitt last week. So I feel like a total buffoon. And out of pure spite, I mean, I am concerned that they didn't game plan for Notre Dame at all. And that they're like, whatever happens. And they were planning ahead. I can't back someone who says something that idiotic. So, and Georgia Tech is at home. And this 2.5 number has been the thorn in my side all year. I will not get got by the 2.5 again. Georgia Tech wins by a field goal and covers.
It's not even true what he said either, because the ACC has run into a problem now where they might not have one of the highest ranked conference winners, right? It's basically a lock, but they've run themselves into a position where that's not even true what Narduzzi was saying. They need to have one of their teams come out on top. Maybe he doesn't care about the college football playoff and he's just saying, hey, our goal at the beginning of the season was win the ACC. Otherwise, it just makes no sense what he was saying. I think it's kind of a stank on the program. It's just kind of weird. And Georgia Tech showed last year they can play well down the stretch. So I'm going to take the Yellow Jackets to cover here as well. And you mentioned 2.5 point spreads. Bad news for you. BYU at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a 2.5 point underdog at home. So who do you like in this one to finish things off?
Yeah, well, I'm going to even it out. I'm going to win one by 0.5 point, and here I go losing one by 0.5 point. I'm taking Cincinnati at home. I just don't think BYU is as good as its record indicates. I mean, they got their doors blown off by Texas Tech. Now that defense is for real. That Texas Tech defense, they are seriously scary. But I don't know. Cincinnati has a decent amount to play for. I think they might still be in the hunt for a Big 12 title. I don't know. But
I want to pull up the Big 12 standing deals here in a second. It's chaos.
Yeah, but if they are, this game is what would do it. And if not, they could still. Teams like this are not expecting to go to the CFP preseason, right? So a great bowl game, a 10-win season, all these things that are still on the line at home, and also she is my rival in this space, Angelique Changelis of the Detroit News. But I really love her so much. And she is a Cincy grad. We all talk about Cincy with her all the time. So for the Angel, I will take Cincinnati.
All right. I'm just picking Cincy based on just pure chaos that seems to rise in college football all the time. Texas Tech is 7-1 in the conference. And we think they're a step above. BYU is the only other one-loss team at 6-1. Utah is 5-2. Houston is 5-2. Arizona State is 5-2. Cincinnati is 5-2. So if BYU loses to Cincy, that's just a tiebreaker headache that I don't know how anyone's going to solve, right? So I think I just feel like the college football universe is going to give that to us, and that's why I'm going to take the Bearcats.
Love it.
Tony's going to take off. Appreciate it for another great episode with Mr. Garcia. Thank you to Nicole Avery Nichols, who makes it all possible here at the Free Press. Thank you to Robin Chan for editing these podcasts, putting up with Tony and I's timing and all this other crap that he has to deal with and sitting through us multiple listens. And thank you to everyone who made it to the end of this podcast. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys next week for a preview of Ohio State after Michigan takes on Maryland on the road. We'll talk to you guys next week.